What do you think of when you hear the term inner child? Does it make you uncomfortable? Does it make you feel weak or wounded? In this video, I'm going to be getting into what the inner child actually is. I'm going to be discussing some beliefs that you may have that are limiting your healing because of it. And I'm also going to be talking about something very important, and that is why innocence and getting in touch with your innocence is actually the most powerful tool you have. So stay tuned because that's a very interesting discussion. My name is Adam. Before we dive in today, I just want to let you know I have a free book list you can download in the description. It's 15 books that have helped me heal immensely. So I would recommend it to anyone who wants just a little more free information on what they can do in order to accelerate their healing process or understand how it is that we heal. Okay, so let's dive in for today. Let's talk about the inner child. What do you think of when you hear the term inner child? What do you feel? For me personally, whenever I still feel this way a little bit when I hear the term inner child, it makes me a little bit uncomfortable because I see it through the perspective of when I first started to hear about it, which was in sort of like cheesy therapy rooms with like kind of Mr. Rogers therapist wearing like a yellow or like a sky blue like sweater, where we all sort of had to huddle in the room in these sort of hokey little chairs, hiding from the super macho dicks outside that were going to kick the shit out of all of us if they found out we were healing our inner child. So to me, there's this sort of obligatory, kind of a little bit weird energy to it. There's this need to kind of hide from everybody and feel like there's something wrong with me and just feel overall kind of lame. Do you recognize this? Do you feel this at all? Maybe you don't, but it's still going to benefit you a lot to listen to the rest of this video. Anyway, that's how it was for me. That's how it still is for me a little bit. I also would feel, and I feel kind of this idea of like, there's something wrong with me. I'm wounded. I have to retrieve this sort of broken child to heal it. And there's this kind of energy of obligation, seriousness, heaviness, trauma, and I don't like it. Okay, so let's reframe that a bit. If instead of it being like that, what if your inner child is actually your divinity, essentially? It's your divine creative spark. And it's not just the energy to create in terms of whatever you want with your life, in terms of art, in terms of screenplays, in terms of music. That's where all of that comes from. It's also a little bit, maybe you're rebel. It's the adventurer in you. It's the comic, the clown, except it comes in a slightly different way than what we normally expect. And I'm going to be explaining that, okay? Your inner child is the part of you that knows how to feel joy. It knows how to feel passion, and it knows how to have fun. The problem is, in our world, as we all know very well, that piece gets stomped to death very early on by everyone. By most of the time, by our families, by our society, by our schools. Everything is basically designed to like pound this thing into hiding so that we lose our spark and become these sort of automatons or, quote unquote, slaves to a system that's designed to just create workers for no other reason than to just show up and propagate or perpetuate the system. So if this resonates with you at all, I want to give you a few beliefs to investigate to see if you have. Because these beliefs will hold this trauma and this wound in place. So check to see, my inner child is weak, or an inner child is weak. Do you have that belief? And kind of feel into your body and just notice like if that resonates a little bit. Do you have the belief, my inner child is fragile? Do you have the belief that healing is lame? Do you have the belief that, I don't have time to heal because it makes me weak? Do you have the belief that if I have some sort of trauma, it's because there's something wrong with me? These are all very common beliefs, and they're all incorrect. Now, healing the inner child involves letting it come out to play, letting it come out to have fun, letting it come out to show you what to do in order to rediscover, like, any kind of curiosity, passion, fun, humor, playfulness in your life. And when you see it that way, you start to honor it more. And you don't have this kind of disgusting association with it. You don't see it as broken. You don't see it as bad. You don't see it as any of those things. You see it as the gift that you're meant to uncover. It's the divine child. And what I want to talk about briefly now is how the divine child is a symbol of innocence. And innocence in our world is a very, very dangerous state to be in, or so we think. Because, well, if you look at our history, anytime you're innocent, we also associate innocence with being naive, with being gullible, with being able to be taken advantage of, because we live in a world that's so cutthroat, so kind of like dark shadow aspect of like a kind of evil wolf or predator. And so anything innocent usually becomes prey. But when you understand frequency, this actually isn't true. It's the opposite of true. And because the planet's shifting so much now, it's really important to get in touch with that innocence and to understand that that is the ultimate rebellion. And I'm going to explain that now. So many, many years ago, when I started, when I was kind of in the middle of my healing process, I had somebody tell me, it was a healer who I had a lot of respect for. He told me, you have this innocence in you, this kind of innocent and this very pure part of yourself. And he told me it's like something that I wanted to really get in touch with, because he said the innocence is untouchable. And I didn't know what he really meant at the time, because to me, it's like, how is the innocence untouchable? That part of me got touched all over the place. I wasn't molested or anything, but a lot of people were. Got beaten to shit. It was like completely destroyed. But as I contemplated that, and as I've healed more, I began to understand what he meant. Your innocence is untouchable. The way energy works is when we get attacked, we tend to believe, because of the world we live in, that we need to fight back. And sometimes that's true. We do need to set boundaries. You do want to be tough and discerning. You don't want to be like naive and gullible and just get taken advantage of. Okay, but that's a different sort of thing. We often end up in this paradigm of like right, wrong, good, bad, good, evil, and you need to fight in order to conquer. The problem is that the way energy works is you can't, it's like the level of frequency and intelligence that you're at just keeps begetting the same thing. So fighting and fighting back are the same paradigm, and it just seesaw battles back and forth. That's the tyrant victim polarity. Like so most victims aren't trying to get out, and none of us are victims ultimately, but most victims aren't trying to get out of the polarity as much as they are trying to get over to the tyrant side so they can have power. The problem is that just keeps them cycling back and forth and back and forth. So how do you get out? Well, getting in touch with your innocence. Because every time you go to fight, and every time you fight and you draw in this belief that you have to fight, energetically what you're saying to the universe is, I want more opportunities to fight. Bring me more people to fight. Bring me more opponents. Bring me more challenges, more struggles, more conflicts, so I can build my fighter muscle. And this was important for a while on the planet because we were stuck in that paradigm, but we're not anymore. That's the rise of consciousness, the rise of 5D. The way to get out is love. Love is the ultimate barrier. Love is the ultimate protection. A lot of people, who are into energy and magic will do all sorts of protection spells and filling their field with protection and shields. And I'm not saying that's not a good thing to do, it is. But when you are so filled with love, the love will literally push away anything that's not in the vibration of it. So that's how innocence actually starts to become untouchable, because you end up in this frequency where nothing can actually get to you. It can't energetically get to you. You sort of pop out. Now, you want to have discernment. You want to learn how to set boundaries. You want to protect your innocence, yes. But it's much more minimal than we think. You don't need to like take out a machine gun and shoot everybody to protect your innocence. When you start to learn to say no, when you start to vibrate at a higher frequency, a lot of the things that are causing the problems begin to fall away. Now, this can take some time, but it's important to focus more on kind of unraveling that innocence and that purity than it is to focus on like having to fight everybody all the time. It's the ultimate gift. And that's actually how you rebel against everything. It's true freedom. There's like, I don't want to get too much into politics, but there's a lot of people that want to talk about, you know, the system's so broken and we need to rebel and revolt and all this stuff. And it's like, whatever. I don't know. I'm not one to really talk about that. But what I will say is this: 99% of those people are in the same energy of the energy they're wanting to rebel against. So what happens when they do that, or when you rebel from that place? If you take down any system or structure, you then replace it with a system or structure that's the same energy or worse. That's all that leads to. I've always had this philosophy. I don't know if anybody knows who Harpo Marx was, but Harpo Marx was one of the Marx brothers. And the films are hilarious. He played this character that was a mute sort of clown-like character, and he was hilarious. And he had this childlike innocence to him. He was basically like a 5-year-old. And to me, he's the ultimate figure for any kind of real spiritual rebellion for a couple of reasons. One, he was out of the range of battle. Like he never, ever, ever would have harmed anybody. And yet at the same time, because he was like a 5-year-old divine child, he was never, ever, ever going to do anything that anybody told him to do either. It was complete freedom, but from a heart-centered, loving place. And when you can start to see your inner child through that light, when you can start to see that the inner child represents the gift of innocence, the untouchability of innocence, the gift of play, the gift of humor, the gift of fun, and you honor this part of yourself, and you find out kind of where in your body you're still holding these trauma patterns, and you give it time to come out through prioritizing time to play, prioritizing time to do things that you love. You start to build the frequency and the energy of that and the momentum. And as you honor it more, you can heal it without having to go so much into the shadow of the trauma. Sometimes you need to do that a little, but when you can really nurture and build the positive frame for this energy, it will start to just dissolve some of the shadow aspects as they are without having to work so hard to do it. And that is when your life falls into place. That is when you start to attract other like-minded people who are having fun. You start to attract partners that deeply love you and honor you. You start to attract jobs that you like, or streams of income that are easier because you're vibrating at that frequency with that energy. So my advice would be, prioritize your innocence. Find the parts of you that are innocent. Yes, protect them. Yes, set boundaries. Yes, you need to learn discernment. It's one of the most important lessons you can learn on planet Earth, because there are plenty of people trying to take advantage of you. But that doesn't mean you have to shut down your innocence. It just means you have to get discerning. You have to get kind of smart. You can be innocent and smart at the same time. Okay? That's wisdom. So prioritize this, honor it, and take steps each and every day to kind of play with the inner child and to see it as a gift, and ask it what it needs from you. Ask it where it wants you to go, and understand that the inner child is not an idiot. The inner child is divinity. You can link your inner child to infinite consciousness and become smart as fuck and wise as fuck and still keep your innocence. Anyway, let me know what you think of this. If you have any revelations or breakthroughs, I also have an energy clearing in the description below if you want to download that. Other than that, thank you so much. I look forward to next time, and bye-bye.